Hi everyone, I'm Joanna Penn from thecreativepenn.com and welcome to this evening's webinar, or this afternoon, or wherever you are in the world. We've got lots of people here tonight, so it should be a really good session. You're going to learn an awful lot, and just to let you know, you will get the slides and there will be a recording, so don't worry about scribbling down everything you see. Just take sort of extra notes as we go along. So tonight's webinar is in conjunction with Corinna Gordon-Barnes from youinspireme.co.uk. Corinna, are you on the line?
I certainly am, Joanna. Can you hear me?
Yes, all good. So you're going to give us a little intro, aren't you?
I certainly am. Yeah, I just want to welcome you so much, Joanna. You've been incredibly helpful to me as I've taken the journey of self-publishing my first non-fiction book. Not only in terms of understanding the process, you help people know what they're actually doing, but also in encouraging me and showing that it's possible and exciting to self-publish. It's a choice that we can actively make rather than feeling like we can only pursue the traditional publishing route. So thank you so much for that, and I'm delighted that you're here with us today to help others navigate this territory too. And I know your words of wisdom are going to be incredibly valuable for everyone listening. I've had lots of people write to me and say, "Oh, I'm so excited! What perfect timing this is!" So thank you so much for being here with us.
Well, thanks ever so much. That's a lovely intro. Now I'm going to mute you, so see you later, and we'll get on with the webinar. Okay, so while we're just starting and while people are still arriving, I had over 100 questions submitted on the, when you registered. So I've really tried to address all the questions that people submitted. But also, those of you who are on the call live get to ask me questions as well. So just to check, first of all, that you can see the screen, that you can hear, and also that you know how to ask questions, I'd just like you to put in the question box and address it to staff and just say, yes, I'm excited, or yes, I can see the screen, or anything like that, just so I know you're all out there. So if you could just do that now, just in your question or chat box, I can never remember, but address it to staff, just say, yes, I can see your screen, yes, I can hear you. Okay, thank you, Dave, Alison, marvellous, Annie, brilliant. I'm glad. Yes, all working well, thank you, Colin. Looks like we're all good. I always just like to check that because I've had a few occasions. Yes, thank you, Sahira, Dimitri, Craig, all very exciting. Yes, so I do get very excited. As I said, I will talk quite fast. So I think we'll just get on with it. So just a little bit, if you're not, sort of already on my list or in my tribe, so I'm obviously Joanna Penn, and about 4 years ago I wrote my first non-fiction book, How to Enjoy Your Job or Find a New One, which was a career change book. It more changed my life than anyone else's, but I learned a lot from that. I wrote 2 more for, for writers on writing and marketing, and now I'm writing fiction, but this year I will be writing more non-fiction, so I certainly have some experience and love to share it. I also have a blueprint which I'm about to release the very up-to-date version of the Author 2.0 blueprint. So if you're on the list already, you're going to get that by email this weekend, or go and jump on that. That's going to be quite exciting too. Or I'm on Twitter at The Creative Pen, so you can always tweet me. I'm often on Twitter. Okay, so that's a bit about me. So we'll jump straight in, because we have so much to get through, and I'll just make sure, yeah, okay. All right, so our very first port of call is deciding on your goal and your topic for your book. Now, people often just jump in, and this is a big mistake because you can go quite wrong. And again, I talk from experience in terms of not taking the steps before I wrote my first book in order to maximize success. So, there are many reasons why we write, but hopefully you guys, you're all generally business people or, aiming to make some income. Okay, now I try not to put too many words on, but I did, I was aware that you guys want a lot of content. So, just to get into this, the possible goals for your book, but this is a question that you really have to think about, is that it might be to build awareness, it might be another income stream for your speaking platform, it might be to give away as, as the backbone to your teaching, for example, if you do workshops. some people do want to be on every Waterstones bookshelf, or Borders as it was, I guess, Barnes and Noble, if you're in America. Some people do want that kind of fame that comes from having a book, although there are obviously so many out there. Or it might be your life goal to write a book, and I know that for many people, especially those who go into coaching, they do have some kind of life-changing things they want to share, and I was certainly in that position. So that's the first thing you need to do, is think about, what is my goal that I want, I guess, for my business as well as my book, and that will really shape how you go about the rest of it. So I love this quote. If you don't know Seth Godin, he's a sort of marketing, business writing guy. He writes a lot of non-fiction. I highly recommend him, his blog, his books. And this is a quote from him, that the book you write will change your life, basically. And I certainly found that myself. And I think, we all know that in the journey of life, it's the journey that counts, and becoming the person we need to be in order to create the things we want to create. So along the way of creating a book are the things that will also impact you. So I think that's quite exciting. Okay, now this is me. The picture on the front screen, I laugh because I've been an IT consultant for 13 years, working in large corporates and small boutique consultancies all over Europe, Australia, New Zealand. So I've had 13 years, and that's me in my pinstripe back when I first wrote my first book, because that's who I thought my market was. Well, it was my market. I was an expert in being miserable at working in big corporates. So essentially I wanted to do that. So that was the first thing. I was an expert in that, and I learnt and I researched and I found out about career change. But the second part is also critical. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Now, that picture is about 4 years ago, and essentially I didn't think about my future when I wrote that book. I didn't think about how I wanted to grow. Now, I needed to write that. I'm not regretting anything, and you won't either. I'm just saying, for example, now I do not talk about career change. I don't market myself in corporates. I'm not an IT consultant anymore. So it may be that things change so much over time that, your business changes, your life changes. So it's really good to think about, well, where do I want to be? If I am, for example, I know a lot of you are coaches. Maybe you want to be coaching a more specific area. In that case, move towards that area. So don't just look at what you're an expert in from your past. Think big and think towards the future, because a lot of writing a book is also research and learning and being right up to date with your market. The other thing is you might have multiple books. So I am actually going to write another book this year or next year. I don't know. I'm writing novels at the moment, but called Change Career Slowly, because that's basically what I have now done and what I'm kind of passionate about. So you can think about this, and you can have multiple books in your repertoire as such. And that's, again, it's really exciting because there's so much we can actually achieve. And once, I guess, and I say that, if you haven't written a book yet, which, I guess you're here to learn about that, what you'll find, I hope, is that once you've created one book, you'll be quite ready to write another one afterwards, because it's kind of addictive. Okay, so I wanted to get a bit more specific on this. So an example might be, I'm a coach, I help people in solo or micro businesses achieve their business goals. That might be what you would tell me at a networking event, or, substitute your own there. So then the important thing and we're talking about your book topic now. We're looking at, the planning that goes around deciding what to even write in your book. So can you narrow down your focus even more? So not just solo micro businesses. For example, what about women who are stay-at-home mums? And I use American spelling here for those Brits. Or people who want to leave corporate jobs but don't know what their passion is. That's who I was aiming for. So that's the first thing, is try and get really narrow, because again, it may be that maybe you do help people in solo micro businesses, and maybe you end up with 3 mini books that each aim particularly at a particular market. Secondly, asking your clients. So of course, you either already you have a whole load of questions that they normally ask you when they come to you, or the problems that your clients have. Or you can do a survey. So I use surveymonkey.com, I think it is. It's very easy to use. It costs $20 for a month, so you can just opt in and out. So for $20 you can do a survey, or I think it's free if it's under a certain number of people. But I do that once a year on my blog, and it gives me enough information to write for another year. So what you need to sort of look at is, what do those people want? And a lot of you asked the question on the sign up, is basically, how do I stand out? How do I talk to my market with what they want? So, the big thing there is obviously ask them. You can also brainstorm and use mind maps. I do that a lot, and I think I've got a picture later on, but that's like a big spider diagram of all the things you can think of. So at this stage of the process, you're almost like blurting everything out, and then what you're going to do is kind of cull that down later on. So really brainstorm, and as I said, not just what you know, but what you want to know about, because that's also the part I love about writing a book, is learning and all the interesting stuff we can find out along the way. And the other thing is, who is the target market and where do they hang out? So, we're thinking forward and in advance about our marketing at this point. And, you guys have businesses, a bit about marketing. And one place I like is alltop.com, which is Guy Kawasaki's sort of blog site where he aggregates some of the best blogs. So you can look for your niche in there and find some really top things, and then do some surfing. I mean, I just keep a lot of screen prints at this stage of things from the internet, and then also I have a lot of diaries, moleskins, that type of thing. So however you do it, but this is the brainstorming part. But you need to get really specific. I think that's one of the biggest issues with non-fiction books, is someone writes a book and calls it great communication, for example. Well, what communication? Is that between a father and son? Is that between a boss and a employee? Who is that communication between? So really get very focused. Okay, then decide on your unique angles. So somebody asked about this, and for me, you are only unique because of your story. So you need to include your personal story. And what you find with non-fiction these days is people really include, especially kind of self-help business, people include a lot of their own stories and other people's stories, because stories are what engage people. So I actually included excerpts from my diary in my book that I'd written over the years of misery. So you can really, try and infuse what is unique about you. I mean, there are some examples there. I just went on to Amazon and looked at small business, and there was this one there, 21 work from home careers for the 21st century. Now, I quite like that as a title, but you can see who she's aiming at. It's mummy bloggers. The picture tells you, and it's a work from home, but it's clearly aimed at mum with the baby. It's not aimed at dad. It's not aimed at anyone else. That's who it's aimed for. So really, you do some research and really include your own stories. You can also include other people's stories if you get permission, certainly from your clients. And I'll come to copyright and Creative Commons a bit later. But for now, you also should be researching on Amazon, and I suggest Amazon.com as well as .co.uk if you're in the UK, because there are quite different things that are popular in America than England. I personally like to market to Americans because they have a really big market. So if you want that, then have a look at what people are buying on the American site. And there on the left there is the categories. So under business and investing, and then small business for the bit that I was looking at. So really drill down and have a look at what books are selling. The other thing is, if you just look at the numbers that is in each of these categories, you're clearly, if you try and put a book in the entrepreneurship category, going to find it hard to rank and sell well when there's that many books. You might be better off trying to look at a smaller niche. So really look around and do some in-depth research. Now again, as we're going through, you can always address questions to staff, but I'm just going to keep on trucking. Okay, several people asked about a sort of overview picture. So here's my little overview picture that I've used a number of times before. So where we are now is the kind of idea cloud bit, where you're basically coming up with everything that will later go into your book, or might go into something else, or might get culled out. Then we're going to look at writing, rewriting, proofreading, editing. Then we're going to look at, we're actually today going to look at publishing. So I say they're printing, but printing and distribution, ebooks, traditional publishing, etc. Marketing and promotion, and overall commitment and persistence, because that's what you need, and I hope you guys all know about that. So we're not going to do psychology today. We're also not going to do marketing because we just don't have the time, but I'm going to give you some resources at the end. Okay, so you've come up with your kind of blue sky, your diagrams, you've come up with your list of problems that people have that you can solve, you've come up with your story, and you've just got loads and loads of bits and bobs, or maybe you already have all of these bits and bobs kind of everywhere, scattered across, you know, audios and PowerPoints and this, that and the other. So what we're going to do now is structure it. Now, and I find with small business people, this is often the thing that kills you and that you kind of sort of drown in. And here you can see that the picture at the top there is some of my diaries. Now, I've been writing diaries since I was 15 and I'm now 36. So I have a lot of diaries. I get through about 3 a year. So, and I keep everything in there, all my thoughts and notes of conferences. And so I went through a lot of that in order to cull material. You'll probably have blog posts, articles, all kinds of things. So there's a number of ways you can, you know, aggregate that, which I'll talk about in a minute. The other thing you need to do is focus your research and not be precious. So if you wrote an article 2 years ago on the latest in small business, chances are it's going to be really, really out of date. Or, for example, I know there's somebody who does Alexander technique. Maybe there's been some new research that supports that in the last few years. Basically, you should go and research your area, like look at, you know, search on Google and do the time search. So you search for only the last 2 months or something and really get the most up-to-date information, because that's also critically important these days. You don't want to be, you know, obviously there are fundamental principles, but there's always things you can add to make things more interesting. So, for example, the 2 books I produced for authors, Idea to Book and From Book to Market, I've just withdrawn because I have to rewrite them again. Social media and all kinds of things have happened since I wrote them, so that's another project for me. Then I want you to write a list of chapter headings. So you've already got, you know, a whole load of stuff, but you need to really focus your chapter headings. And at this point, again, don't be precious. So, you know, if you write down, you know, so I had, for example, a chapter on bullying in the workplace. I might just call that bullying in the workplace for now. It doesn't really matter. You don't need to think of anything smart or marvelous at this stage. But what you want to do is start culling things down into headings so that you can again refine it later. And you should have at least 15, or I don't think you have enough material for a book. You might have enough for, you know, a mini book or a pamphlet or an ebook, which can be pretty much any length these days. But I recommend, you know, 15 chapter titles. And then free writing. This is just, you know, thinking on your topic and then writing, and often this is great in a cafe so you can't get distracted by the internet or anything. So really just exploring things, and I find that a lot of ideas come from that type of stuff, but we all have our ways of being creative. Oh, so here is that's my diary on the top left while I was sitting in a conference, you know, like 5 years ago now, and you probably can't read it, but it says, what is the effect of insignificance on self-esteem? It's quite deep, but essentially, you know, I started off really thinking about stuff like that, you know, I feel so insignificant in this massive corporation. You know, what does that mean? What's that doing to me? So those are the things that you might muse on, and you might never use it. I don't think I ever used that, but it's fascinating to just think and free associate. And then on the right, I did a lot of research. I took time and went to libraries, and I used to type notes up, and then I would print the notes and handwrite on the notes all the things that came up in my head while I was reading the notes. And I still do this for my fiction. This is how I I come up with ideas, basically. This also really helps for avoiding plagiarism. So, for example, you found, like, for example, Escape from Cubicle Nation by Pam Slim is a brilliant book on exactly what I wanted to write a book on. It wasn't actually out when I wrote mine, but if I read it now, I highlight some things, I write a page of notes, then I write my own notes in my handwriting on the page, and I use my handwriting in my book. That means, or if I want to quote her, that's fine, you know, with a line or two. But essentially that helps me be original. Is remove your final writing from the original writing so that you don't just copy things directly into your manuscript file. I'm pretty hot on that because non-fiction books can be pretty densely, you know, full of information that sounds like it's come from Wikipedia, and you want to avoid that. Okay, so how do you organise it? I used to use Microsoft Word. So for my first book, I had a monster Microsoft Word document, and I would copy and paste things into that, and that became my working document. And it was so unwieldy, and I used a table of contents, but it was difficult. Anyway, now we have Scrivener. So Scrivener is now available for the Mac and the PC. It's amazing. It will also help you with ebook publishing, which I'll come to later. But essentially on the left you can see my draft there for my latest book, Prophecy. And you can see you just have a title per, for me it's a scene, for you it would be a chapter. And then essentially you put your bits of, you fill in the blanks really. It's very, very easy to use, and then it compiles it into Word and into a whole load of other things. It also has cork boards, it has, oh, it's awesome, awesome, awesome. We don't have time to go through it much, but I just wanted to recommend that as a really good way to organise, research and create a finished product from. So that's Scrivener. Okay, at this stage as well, you're probably going to be thinking of a title, or maybe it's the first thing that comes to you. I love titles. I often think of a title first. So, you know, have a working title, but you can change it. Don't obsess about it. Have something. Don't wait until you have it before you start. You're allowed to reuse, so as I said, my latest novel is called Prophecy, and there's lots of books called Prophecy, but there is no copyright on book titles, and I have prophecynovel.com as my domain name. But essentially people don't really search fiction on book titles, so for non-fiction it's, you know, it is important to try and have something that resonates or is obvious when people are searching for it. So the example before of the 21 ways for working from home, I mean, people search for working from home. So definitely brainstorm that. Okay, from that point, before I go into there, I'll just say from this point, so now you've got a structure, you've got, you know, maybe 15 chapter titles, you've got a description, you kind of know what you're doing. If you want to go traditional publishing route, now is the time that you write the book proposal, and that's basically what's on this screen. Now, I am not traditionally published, and so I won't be talking from my experience tonight. The book proposals, I've got 2 examples here. Yes, I'm an affiliate of both of these. They're both excellent. Michael Hyatt has been a publisher for like 25 years, and he's got that one there that's cheaper. It's like $20. If you're really serious, Danielle Laporte, who's a big blogger who's just got a massive book deal, has a course at $150. But that includes Tim Ferriss's 4-hour body proposal, Educating Millionaires by Michael Ellsberg and others. So I really recommend both of those. I've you know, looked at both of them, and I've, you know, considered using Michael's, but at the moment I'm choosing not to go that route. That's really up to you, but I wanted to tell you about those products because I will not be going through how to get a traditional publishing deal tonight. Okay, so once you've got your outline, you need to decide on your plan and your timeline. Now, this is again the critical piece that will actually get you to the point of achieving your book. So many people again kind of go, oh, one day I'm going to write a book, you know, maybe I'm going to do it one day. But you can only achieve the things you actually write down and specifically set goals for. And all of you coaches out there will know exactly what I mean. Okay, so this slightly dense slide is because many of you asked about a timeline. So this timeline is for you if you do what I tell you from tomorrow. So if you basically take this course and then tomorrow you start on the process that I've defined, I think that you can have a book out by mid-July, most likely, if you follow this kind of pattern. And what I'm going to do next is come on to the writing and rewriting, but this is essentially the overview that you will have to get right on with the goal, the target market, the chapter headings that you write and rewrite between now and May. Then you have beta readers, which I'll explain in a bit. You do final rewrites and copy edit, and once your manuscript's complete, you then publish and launch once you actually have some books. At the same time, you'll need to actually book an editor, as in, book them in advance, reserve their time. You'll also need to decide on title and cover design, and at the same time, platform building, marketing plan, launch, etc., etc. So I'm going to go into some of those aspects next, but that's kind of an overview of what I think is a timeline. It's probably quite aggressive, but you could do a 60,000 word book by then if you already kind of know what you're talking about. And I think that's doable with a job as well. I don't mean sit there and just write it. So, but again, as I said, that's aggressive. If you want to set, a more of a goal that you feel is realistic, you certainly should be setting it as a year or less than a year. For non-fiction, there's no reason you can't get that done. So, write down your goal so that you know what you're heading for. I really think that's critical. And I have this little thing that every year by my birthday, I have to have something new out. So I actually have to have a new book out. So, I've had basically the last 4 years, I've had 4 books and now I've got 5. So, I think it helps to have something like that keeps you honest and keeps you creating. And set deadlines for each stage. So, for example, if you say, yeah, I'm going to finish my book, publish my book by, so let's say December, let's just go back to this one, by the 20th of July. That means that I am going to finish my first draft by March the 1st or March the 10th, and have all your mini goals set so that if you miss it, you know how it will impact. So, for example, if you book an editor for April the 1st or April the 2nd, let's say, you have to have your book in a completed state to give it to the editor because they've reserved the time. So it is critical to actually sort that out. Okay. Right, so creating your first draft. You're all awfully quiet. I'm hoping that everything's going well. If you do have any questions, do put them, address them to staff. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep on going. So creating your first draft. Lots of you said, how do I actually do it? Oh, thanks, Dave. I needed some feedback. It's good, thanks. Excellent. It's nice to know you can hear me sometimes, so that's great. Okay, so getting white on black is essentially what it comes down to. It's kind of, I know that's sort of basic, and you're probably going, oh, I didn't want to hear that. But that really is all that it is. It's so simple and yet so hard, and it's difficult every day to come to the page. If you've read The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, that book is really brilliant, so I highly recommend The War of Art. And there is a smaller version. If you have a Kindle, you can get Do the Work by Stephen Pressfield, which is a kind of shorter, kick-ass version. So personally, I would go read Do the Work and kick your own ass when it comes to creating stuff. Thanks, Catherine and Corinna. I'm glad you're enjoying it so far. Okay. What do you need to give up? Okay, so 4 years ago, when I wanted to write my first book, I was working, as I said, I was working as an IT consultant in a large corporate. I was being paid quite a lot of money, and therefore they buy your soul. I'm sure you all know what that's like. So I was working really pretty blooming hard, let's say, and basically I needed to find the time to write, I needed to find the time to become that person I needed to be, and do the research and change my own life, because it was hard. So I really need to look at what I needed to give up, because we all only have 24 hours in the day. So I decided to give up TV. That is the baseball bat in the TV. And essentially, we got rid of the TV 4 years ago. Never looked back. We do download stuff, individual shows on iTunes or BBC iPlayer. But when you download a show and maybe you pay for it, or you only watch one, it really makes the time a lot shorter, and then you can get on with other things. And the other thing I did was give up one full day of work. I went to 4 days a week, and that is the thing I say changed my life. So if you do have a day job, I really reckon that you need to make some time, whether you can go to a half day one day or a full day. That is really the way I wrote the first book. And this is the way I do it these days. So this is actually, I just took these photos before so I could kind of show you. Oh, Alison's just said, my niche is media, so I can't get rid of the TV. Fair enough, but it's for those people who said they don't have any time. Okay, so the yellow day. So at the moment, I'm now a full-time author entrepreneur. So I have to treat my fiction writing as a day job. So you can see there, the top left is my week this week. But you can see the days I block out for the library, and those days I actually get away from this desk where I am now, and I go and I sit in the London Library and I write fiction, and that's the way it works. And I've scheduled that for the next 6 months, so I know the time I'm writing and I commit to that. So that's another way of doing it, is maybe schedule some weekends. Karina, I've been told to pronounce, did it 1 hour each morning every work day. I also did the same. I used to get up at 5 a.m. Before work, so that's absolutely a great way of doing it if you can't block out a day at the weekend. Okay, then basically you structure your book into the chapters and you fill in the blanks. That's essentially the way of doing it. So you've got your chapter on, I'll just use my example, workplace bullying. I didn't actually know much about workplace bullying at the time. It was something that when I was researching why people hate their jobs, it was something that came up. And I was like, well, actually, I don't know that much about workplace bullying, so I need to research it. So I had my heading. I went and researched it. I also did a lot of interviews, so I learned about that. And you just fill in the blanks. So if you're using Word, you just put your chapters and you just fill it in. Or if you're on Scrivener, you just fill it in. And this is basically how you write a novel as well, in terms of structuring. Well, some people structuring, then filling it in. This is one way I recommend to a lot of business people who don't necessarily feel that they are writers. And I know a lot of you will probably have speaking, businesses in which you speak a lot. Either, you're a coach, or you do public speaking, or you do seminars, this type of thing. Essentially, I'm recording this today. What you can really, you can do is, and this is a good way of doing it, is stick your chapter heading on the wall with your mind map or your subheadings, and then talk about it. And there's a couple of benefits to this. One is that you will have your little anecdotes. If you speak as fast as I do, you will get lots of material. Then you can get it transcribed or use speech-to-text software, so that you then have a basic document to work from. You can even do that and then give it to a developmental editor or a ghostwriter if you have more money than time. So I recommend this to big speakers who do speaking for a living, who want a book to sell at the back of the room but might not actually have the inclination or time to sit there and write a book. So there's writing a book doesn't necessarily mean writing it, typing it yourself. This is a really good way around that. You can just get all your webinars transcribed and put them together, but it's nice to have a flow. And I guess I should also say, overarching everything I'm talking about is, one, there are no rules. This is just, some practices that are useful. But secondly, your concern about quality is your decision. So we're going to talk about this in publishing, but to me, a book gets better and better the more you edit, the more you work the material. If you just took some transcripts of a webinar like this, or even this one, you transcribe this webinar, you're going to get all kinds of issues, repetitions, mistakes, grammatical errors. That doesn't make a good book. So clearly you need to rework things. And even when you're writing, if you're just writing things, the more rework you do, the better it's going to get. And the more flow you want, the more flow through the book, the better the experience for your reader. So this is the other important thing I think is, a lot of the reason we write is for ourselves, but the reason we write a book is for the reader. It might be to fulfill a goal, but also we want people to read it and enjoy it and give us good reviews. So keep that in mind when you're doing it. What is the most useful thing for your target market? This is another way people do it. So questionnaires, interviews. Maybe you're doing a book on business, small business with stay-at-home mums, and you have some clients. You could interview them. Most people really want to be interviewed so that they can have a link in your book, because you'll put a said by so and so from this website. So they love that. I mean, I'm always giving people material to put into their books so that I can have my name and my website there. These are all really good things to do. So conducting interviews is good. Again, remember to get Karina said I'm in her book. That's nice, thank you. Write it up into a book format with your own ideas. So we don't just quote verbatim interviews. What we can do is then say, pull out an aspect of the interview so that you can put your own spin on what they've said. And that's what makes it your own. All right, so also we're talking about, reality. When we're talking about a reality check, we're talking about using your own story, really, including your authenticness. This authenticity is talked about a lot with social media, with writing, with brand, blogging. I started out quite afraid of sharing. But what I've learned, I think, over the last few years is that really the more you share within boundaries, obviously, the more you share, the more people will resonate with you. So I'm clearly going to share stories about my misery in corporate world as part of a book on career change. I'm not going to share, for example, my struggle with giving up sugar, which is, ongoing. So you have to choose your authenticity within the brand you are communicating. So I don't talk about weight loss in my brand, The Creative Pen. I talk about writing, publishing, book promotion. So you have to decide, okay, where's my authenticity and where are my boundaries? But being fake or hiding things is just unnecessary. Sharing your rock bottom will really help other people. And I think a lot of us want to write in order to help people. So I think that's quite critical. Okay, and Anne Lamott's Bird by Bird. If you haven't read that, it's kind of it might be more for fiction writers, but it's a book on creativity and getting things done. Anne Lamott is a lovely lady, completely balmy, but I love her books. And she says the only way I can get anything written at all is to write really, really shitty first drafts. So I want you to keep that in mind, and this is important if you do want to write a novel, is you have to write a load of crap with your first draft. That's fine, absolutely fine. So for example, I'll put, in terms of a way you'll understand, I've obviously prepared this slide pack this evening. Now, do you think I created the slide pack perfectly the first time, or do you create your slides for speaking or your notes for things perfect the first time? No, you don't. So why do we think that about books? Some people seem to think that you have to create a masterpiece with the first sentence you write. That's not reality. So this realization helped me so much, so that's why I kind of wanted to share it with you. Is it's absolutely critical. Oh, good. Catherine says, great point. Dave, great quote and a great way to think. Thanks, guys. I'm glad you like that. That should change your life. And we'll finish there. No, we'll carry on. Okay, a couple of people asked about quoting. Because obviously in self-help books we often quote, and non-fiction, we quote people. So for example, I've just quoted Anne Lamott just then, but I have cited her, and I've told you about her book, and I wrote her book, and Anne Lamott, Bird by Bird. So you can see there in red, quoting is copying another's work without permission, but it is considered fair use. However, there are some rules, so I've included the links there. But just remember fair use, and Google that if you are concerned. It should only, quoting one line, two lines, even half a paragraph is going to be acceptable under fair use, and no one's going to have, any issues with that. If you're quoting an entire interview with somebody, then I would get their permission. But really we're talking about, famous people that you might hear good quotes of. I certainly use them in my book. Remember to attribute it to the author or the creator. The other thing is Creative Commons, which I now use as a license on my blog, and also on the new Author 2.0 blueprint I'm bringing out soon, will have Creative Commons licensing. And I'm a real fan of Creative Commons. On the internet, spreading things, going viral is really important. And if you have Creative Commons on your work or some of your work, and some people then put an article on their site but attribute you, where's the harm in that? So essentially, if you're interested in that idea, have a look at Creative Commons. So I have a Flickr account, for example, and all my Flickr photos are all Creative Commons. You can use them on your blog because I use Creative Commons images I want to give back. So that's really important. The other thing, and I'm not doing fiction today, but somebody asked about writing, a spin-off of Harry Potter. And I just want to remind you that fan fiction, which is taking someone's idea and writing in their world, is breach of copyright, and there are issues with that. Sorry I'm late from Kirsty, that's all right. Just jump in and you'll catch up, I'm sure. Okay, so essentially just be careful, and as I said earlier, with plagiarism, just make sure you put your own spin on everything. And when you read things back, I often find you can go, wait, I don't write like that. And what you might find is that you've inadvertently copied some material. So definitely check for that. I think that's really important. Okay, just a sip of water here. All right, rewriting and editing. Okay. Now, a lot of people who haven't written a book before obsess about the first draft. They're like, oh, this is so hard. But actually, the first draft, as we just said, you write a shitty first draft. You write everything you can possibly write, and preferably more, so you can colour out later. I'm actually one of those people who writes less and has to add things in later. But, however you do it, rewriting and editing are how you actually make a book. And this is from Michael Crichton, who is one of my favourite authors, obviously now dead, but books aren't written, they're rewritten. The words you start out with in your first draft are very unlikely to be the words you end up with in your final draft. There might be some sentences that remain, but you will most likely, if you spend a good amount of time with your material, you will be restructuring, jigging things around, changing stuff, rewriting areas, and then when you get an edit, you'll have to do a whole load more. So essentially, I don't want you to get obsessed about the first draft. The whole point is write it as fast as you can so that you have something to work with. And I don't have a slide on this, but I use the, Michelangelo with David, and also that Michelangelo also has these sculptures of slaves, and they're emerging from blocks of marble, which I love. They're in Florence, and I think about that in terms of how we write a book. Okay, when when Michelangelo was bringing David out of the rock, he saw it there, but you start off by like hacking off hunks, and then, you know, roughly shaping it, and then you grind it and you polish it down to the exact perfection that is David. So that's, you know, if you're a sculptor with a block of marble. But for us, we have to create the block of marble. So our first draft is the block of marble, and it's just, you know, a big lump basically. So that's what I want you to think. It's like, I need to write my big lump, and then the editing and rewriting process will transform my big lump into the finished David. So that's, I should have had a slide on that. Okay, so this is the process of writing, rewriting, reading, editing that you need to go through. Now, how many times you go through this is entirely up to you. So for me, on the left there, we have write and rewrite, read and edit. That's kind of your self-editing. So my process, for example, is to write the big lumpy first draft, and then it becomes to me a first draft when you could read it end to end without stopping, as in where you haven't got in brackets research this or add something here, or, you know, for me it's like add fight scene into my novel. That's not a first draft yet. The first draft is when you have an end-to-end narrative and you're like, yep, okay, good, that's my first draft. Then what I do, and again this is up to you, is I print it out, and as I did before with my notes, I will go through and I'll scribble, you know, go must add scene here, what happens here, why does that not work? And, you know, with my non-fiction books, it was very much a case of, you know, adding in material. Often you'll find that you assume people know what you're talking about, but you may have to write definitions, you may decide that you need to freshen up this chapter, so you need to do an interview, all of those things. So then what you do obviously is you go into a second draft and you know, always back up people. So I like, in fact I do it every day now, but you probably won't work on your book every day, but I email draft versions to myself on Gmail, because, you know, you don't lose stuff on Gmail, it's on the web. But definitely back up. I do not want to hear you've lost your drafts. No. But anyway, so once you've backed up, you know, your first draft, create a copy of it, do your second draft, read it, edit again. So now you've created a second draft. And what I find is the whole rewriting and editing phase takes the same amount of time, if not longer, than your first draft. So if your draft has taken you 3 months of working evenings, weekends, whatever, it probably will take you another 3 months to rewrite and edit to make it a good book. But again, your tolerance for what is quality is up to you. I'm not going to tell you where that is. You'll know when you're happy with your book. Okay? Once you have got to a point where you cannot improve your book any longer, I suggest you get an editor. I recommend professional editors to everybody. I think you need somebody to give you this feedback who is not your friend, who doesn't love you, and in fact who you pay. So in terms of budget, I believe you need to budget for an editor, and at thecreativepen.com/editors I have recommended some. But you can shop around. Obviously you can use people who you know, or whatever. You can, I went through a structural edit, which is someone who helped me actually restructure the book because it needed some help. Often with non-fiction you don't need that because you know your audience, you know what you're doing. Yeah, so basically you go through all of that with an editor, and they will then give you feedback. Then you're back over on the left again, and then you have to write and rewrite and go through it again. You may... Oh, okay, how much do I suggest budgeting for an editor, from Kirsty? It's really hard. It depends whether you want a developmental edit or a copy edit, which I'll be coming to in a minute. But a developmental edit, you'll be looking at probably 400 to 600 US, maybe 400 to 1,000 US, you know, around 300 to 700 pounds GBP for a developmental edit, which will really help you through. And then the copy edit, you can get cheaper prices. They normally do per 1,000 words, but I've included pricing on my editor's page there, so you can have a look, shop around. But again, this is your tolerance for quality, and I think you need it. After you've been through the editing process, I again recommend you get beta readers. Now, these are people who, this is, the term comes from the same as, when your website's in beta or your software's in beta. It's like it's not finished yet, it's in the kind of test phase. So I found people actually who were in my workplace, who were people who read business books, and or for my other ones I got writers obviously, and they would then read the book draft, and I printed it for them, or now you can give people a Kindle version or whatever, and they read the book and they give you feedback on readability of the book and understanding. And I got some great feedback, things like, you just used this phrase and I don't even know what it means, what the hell does that mean anyway? Stuff like that you can't, again, you might not pick up on your own. And the other thing is, kind of excitingly, you'll be able to improve it before it hits the public, which is kind of critical. We don't want to put our book live and then basically have a whole load of issues with it. So I think that's critical. And then copy editing is essentially the spelling and grammar that you do at the very last minute, and that is generally cheaper. Oh, I just kind of talked about this. There's some of my edits. You can see there, printing it out. The top one is my own edits. The bottom one is a professional editor. Comments, crossing, spelling, that type of thing. And with editing, you should be cutting a lot. You should be going, this is a load of crap, I'm just going to cut that, or I'm going to rewrite it. You can see there in the top left, I've just crossed through a whole paragraph, and that's from my novel. I actually ended up cutting 20,000 words because I was just like, nah, this is the kill your darlings section, as they say. But equally, it's really good to do this if you can put your manuscript aside for a bit. So once you've finished your, maybe your second draft, and you're like, yeah, I'm pretty happy with this, put it away for a couple of weeks, or, at least a week. Stephen King says 3 weeks, so that you're a little unfamiliar with it. And when you read it again, you'll see things that you didn't see before. Basically, you should be rereading and editing until you're sick of the bloody book. Lorraine, is more editing required for an ebook than a traditional book? No. For our purposes here, you're using exactly the same text for an ebook as you are for a traditional printed book. We're not talking about two different things here. An ebook is a book, a printed book is a book. It's the same document as far as I'm concerned. And an ebook can be any length, so you don't need to worry about that. But your non-fiction book, would probably be between 40 and probably 60,000 words. It can be 100,000, but that's pretty long. Business books, non-fiction books are normally shorter than fiction. Okay, how are we doing? Nearly 9 o'clock. Oh, this is a bit of a romp, isn't it? Okay, this is my reorganization. You can see I used to be a consultant. Oh, Kirsty's loving it. Thanks, Kirsty. So I reorganized the book. I was just like, what's going on? I can't get a proper flow. So I organized the book into these, are you happy in your job? No, I'm not. Are you bored? If you're bored, you can go to chapter 3. And then, do I need to get an, oops, sorry about that. Getting too excited. So essentially that really helped me restructure the book, and also I used it so that people could find the chapter they were interested in. So again, and I did this reorganization after the beta reading. That's how late I had to restructure the whole book. But up until that point, I'd been slightly uneasy about it. It didn't feel like it was hanging together. And then after I had the beta reader feedback, which was, doesn't flow really well. And then I was like, right, reorganize it like this. And I obviously had to change a lot, and then I had to go back to the editor. But essentially, I think it made it a much better book than if I hadn't have restructured it at that point. Don't be afraid. Look, you want to be proud of your creation. And therefore, you have to, even when you're sick of it, you know, carry on. Like your children, I guess. Okay, and then persistence and discipline, obviously really important. If this is going to be the year you write your book, then make it the year you're going to write your book, and don't give up. And you do need discipline, bum glue, as they say, to get it done. But I'll tell you, it's really very rewarding to have books. It really is. You just feel like, yay, I've created something. So definitely do it, but set those goals. What's best for your reader is also really important. So if you've got a chapter in there that is, and then I went through an awful divorce, and you read the chapter later and the chapter is all about your divorce, that's not necessarily best for your reader. You can have like some, you know, a paragraph about your divorce, and then the rest of your chapter is how that lesson helps the reader. So really focus all the time on, you know, keeping your therapy to the point where it helps your reader. Again, this is a big issue with non-fiction books. It's like, yeah, that's your therapy, which is great, not necessarily in the book. Some in the book, because it's authentic, but not everything. Okay, and back to Seth Godin, you know, my sort of guru, who talks a lot about shipping. So shipping is basically getting it out the door, okay? So you cannot sit on it forever. At some point, it has to be finished. So, you know, a book it will never be finished. You will always find something afterwards. There will always be a typo. You'll always go, oh, I could have done that. You know, I look at How to Enjoy Your Job now and I'm like, oh, there's so much I want to change. But essentially, you have shipped, it is out the door, and you move on to your next project. And I tell you, once you've released the kind of blockage of the book that you're writing first, you will get much more ideas. That's the secret of creativity, I think, is get it out there and more will come, which is exciting. All right, half an hour to romp through publishing. So as I said, I'm not going to talk, I will talk a bit pros and cons of traditional publishing, but we'll see. I'm so ready for the second. From Karina. Second what? Second book. Oh, right, good. Yes, second book. Excellent. You see, it's addictive. Everybody wants more books. Okay, so publishing in print. This is my little publishing quadrant, where essentially the thing to remember is the way you publish doesn't mean that you can't publish any other way. You can publish in all of these ways. None of these excludes anything else, which again is really exciting because it means, for example, you can publish an ebook and then get picked up for a traditional publishing deal, which has happened to quite a lot of people recently. Or you can just, you know, as again a lot of people are doing, they're moving from traditional publishing into ebook publishing and self-publishing. So people are jumping around this map and they're also doing multiple things. So the hybrid model I talk about, which is when people have a traditional publishing deal and they are doing ebook publishing as well. So lots of excitement in the publishing industry. So, you know, should you go traditional? You know, obviously there's kudos and prestige. You get support, you get distribution to physical bookstores, although whether or not that's worth it anymore is questionable. You may get marketing help, and that all depends on the publisher. But the main reason people generally want a publishing deal is kudos, prestige, and distribution to bookstores. It's not actually money because you get paid kind of less, and it's not great to be a mid-list author. But the negatives are time to market. So for me, that was really crunch in that I did not want to wait 2 years to publish my book. And that's, you know, 18 months, 2 years is quite normal. Lack of control, loss of rights, especially ebook rights. And if you don't sell, the publisher will often, you know, move on to other things. So that's just some pros and cons. I am what's known as an independent author or an indie author, and we're kind of using this term instead of self-publishing because, you know, there is no, the publisher is ourselves, but we use other professionals and we invest in editors, cover design, etc. So we say independent because we're not actually kind of self-publishing, we're not doing it all ourselves. And self-publishing has a lot of, you know, old style stigma about vanity press, about paying thousands of dollars for someone else to publish your book. You don't need to do that anymore. You can do it yourself, publish direct to Amazon, so there's no middleman, and I'll come on to that in a minute. Lorraine has asked, if you do decide to try traditional publishing, is there a protocol in terms of how many you contact? Yeah, okay, so just on traditional publishing, I mean, that is a whole nother webinar all on its own. But essentially, nowadays it's totally acceptable to query multiple people at the same time, and you just put a comment that you are querying multiple people. But most people understand that. But again, if you go back and look at those traditional publishing book proposal things that I recommended, that will really help. Okay, I know some people have to go early. Remember, there's a recording, but we'll be going for another 30 minutes about publishing. And you, as ever, you can ask your questions in the to the staff. Okay, so some people also asked, what about, if I do self-publishing, will it hurt my traditional publishing chances? Definitely not. And I've included a link there for you from Writer's Digest. Publishing is a business, and publishers want success stories, so they are far more likely to pick you up if you can show that you can sell and you can write. So a lot of people are actually getting book deals from their platform and their indie success. Okay, moving on. Okay, so indie publishing, obviously quicker time to market, control, choice. You can do whatever you like as you have the rights. It's perfect for niche markets that traditional publishing might not even pick up. And you can get into the game, test the market, and then you could approach a publisher later with your evidence of sales. The negatives are you do have to do it yourself or find professionals to help you. For a professional result, you do need a budget, although it's smaller than using a vanity press, which is where you pay them thousands and thousands, like $20,000. I think, $1,000, if $1,000 is your budget, you can use professionals for that amount of money. What I hate is when people end up paying $5,000, $10,000 to somebody else to do it when there are other ways. I just get awful sob story emails. If you go indie, it is hard to get distribution into physical stores, but again, selling on Amazon is kind of the best way. How much time do you need to allow, i.e. manpower, not elapsed time, to go indie, from Kirsty? That was, I don't know if you got here late, Kirsty, if you were the late one, but I did a time scale earlier of how long everything will take. So just go back to that slide in the recording, if that's okay. There is less prestige if you go self-publishing, but that is really changing. And if you do a really professional job, nobody even knows the difference anymore. So I don't worry about that. It's not an issue anymore. Okay, to print or not to print? That is our question. Now, I made the mistake of printing a stack of books when I did my first book, but then I realised, because I didn't know about print on demand, and hopefully I'm about to change your life. So doing a small print run is fine if you have a way of selling print books yourself. So if you have a speaking platform, if you're going to sell them to your physical clients, or if you have a distribution channel ready, like a bookstore that's going to actually sell books for you. But if you're not going to do those things, then I recommend print on demand. Okay, essentially print on demand is, if you go to Amazon and you order my book, what will happen is one book will be printed and it will be sent to you, but only one. So I don't need to pay for 1,000 books to be printed up front. They print as they are ordered. They also get sent directly to you, so I don't need to do any shipping, which is also awesome. So you have no stock, you have no shipping, no postage and packaging. Now, sure, you obviously have to pay the print on demand company a small amount, but the companies I'm going to show you, they take it's really not that major. And yes, Catherine's pointed out it's much more eco-friendly. It is indeed. No more pulping. And this is basically what people are using on Amazon, and traditional publishers do this as well these days. So it's not just an indie thing, it's a kind of everybody thing. So these are the companies that I recommend you use, and I've given you a link to a podcast that I did, where we talk through all of these options. But essentially, CreateSpace is Amazon's own company, and so I recommend them as sort of number one. Lightning Source has a slightly better deal on the books, but it's much harder to use. As in, it doesn't have wizards and everything. Like CreateSpace, really, you don't need to know much at all, and you'll have a print book sorted. Lulu is kind of the same as CreateSpace, but it's not owned by Amazon. And Blurb is really great for photo books, for not-for-profit stuff, because they have charity things. And generally, Blurb is awesome. I helped my little 9-year-old niece self-publish her first book, and we used Blurb. So you kind of use Blurb if you don't, if it doesn't matter that you're selling on Amazon. Clearly, my 9-year-old niece was not going to sell her book on Amazon. It wasn't professional, it was just for fun. You can also, on Blurb, you can do really nice photo books and they have an app, something that will turn it into an iPad app. So that's very cool. Okay. So, my friend Joel is thebookdesigner.com, and I highly recommend, if you're interested in print, that you follow Joel and you have a look at all his stuff. Joel runs a company in America, and he did my book Pentecost, and he's got some brilliant resources. He also cares deeply about fonts and typography. I personally don't. I'm like an ebook fan. So if you really love all of that design stuff, then definitely look at Joel. He's also a professional that you can hire. But I mean, if you have a big budget, you would hire someone like Joel, who will do an amazing professional design of the interior of your book as well as the cover. If you have a slightly smaller budget, you might look at just paying a cover designer and maybe just do your own internal book formatting if it's not too complicated. Okay, so for print, I definitely recommend Joel's blog. Okay, ebook publishing. And again, if you have questions, does anyone have any questions on print? Because otherwise I'll get really excited about ebooks. And any questions on print? No? All right. Okay, so publishing is an ebook. Now it's so exciting. Check this out. So this is a graph. The top left graph was just on Jane Friedman, this is a brilliant blog. Jane Friedman is like a publishing, God, I don't know what her description is now, but she knows everything and everyone. So you can see there, you can see the graph there, wow, for 2011. It's basically heading straight up, and it matches Jeff Bezos, his graph when he did something back when they launched the Kindle Fire. That graph is from his Kindle Fire launch, where it's basically, look, Kindle books have now outstripped print books, just like that, very, very fast. Over sort of 3 years, they've completely overtaken print. I don't know how many of you are any Kindle lovers out there. I love my Kindle. I'm total Kindle converts. I read probably 99%. Yes, from Lorraine. Yep, I read 99% on my Kindle now, and generally I won't buy a book unless there is a Kindle version. So I'm that hardcore. So for me, this is the market I'm heading for. And you can see here that even if you don't like ebooks, if you're someone who goes, no, I love the smell of print books and I love, all of that, which, we all love print. I love print. I much prefer to read ebooks, and I find them so convenient, and so many reasons. But essentially, even if you don't want to read them, this is a market you have to be in. So you definitely want to publish an ebook even if you don't like them yourself. And I really do, given that a Kindle is now like £80, I don't know how much it is in America now, really cheap. You should have a Kindle yourself so you can check your own book on the Kindle. Otherwise bad formatting turns people off really fast, so that's quite important. So the benefits of ebooks, I hope you can see they're a huge growth market. The other thing is you can sell to anyone in the world over the internet, no printing, no shipping costs, and you get more profit per book. So I make $2 more per ebook than I do on print books. Why? So why do I bother with print books? Well, actually, I'm kind of giving up on print personally for now. I'm focusing on ebook only. Joe Conrath, who's sort of a big guy in the indie space. I think that's a link. Anyway, you can just Google him. He talks a lot about this. He made 100 grand in the first 3 weeks January. So that's quite exciting. The speed of publishing is phenomenal. You can basically upload your book and it's published in 24 hours. And it's a very low entry cost, because if you're not doing print, you need a lot less time and money in terms of formatting. You'd have to get a whole cover design, etc., etc. Questions here, Dave. Isn't there an iPad Apple equivalent of Kindle, or do you prefer Kindle? Yep, the Kindle Fire is the iPad, the tablet version, but it's the same in terms of the formatting and everything. I have an old style Kindle because in the UK we don't have the Kindle Fire. I also have an iPad and I read on my iPad on the Kindle app. So yeah, I think. But I'm going to tell you in a minute how you can get on other stores as well. Lorraine, there's a lot of issues around pricing though, isn't there? Some people are selling business ebooks for 99p. You just wouldn't sell a traditional book for that amount. Well, you'll be interested to know that most publishers are bringing their prices down on ebooks, or they're doing specials. But yes, as on pricing, the 99-cent pricing is often used in fiction, but I interviewed a guy called Jim Cockrell the other week, and he was the author of Attention, This Book Will Make You Money, brilliant title, and other things. And he said that essentially you can price non-fiction higher. You will not sell at a cheap price. You will sell more if you price higher. So I would price it $4.99 or $6.99 or something for a business ebook. That's absolutely fine. And then you can use promotional aspects to give people a good deal. Okay, 11 minutes past 9. Running to the end here. Okay, so how do you publish on Kindle? You use KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, which is awesome. You can go to that link and you can read all about it. They have amazing resources there. That will publish you direct to all the Kindle stores worldwide, which grow every week. You're, as I said, published in 24 hours. You can use KDP Select, which is new, and it's basically your book goes in the lending library, and also you can you can do free promotional periods, which really hardcore up your sales. Once you come off free, you're still normally in the bestseller list. So people are using free quite a lot. We don't have time to do marketing, but I have a lot to give you on marketing, so don't worry about that. Brilliant reporting. You can tell how much you sell by the hour. It's awesome. You can just log in and it's updated. You can download reports. It's really good. And also you get paid every month. It's 90-day later, but you know every month I get 2 checks, one from Amazon UK, one from Amazon.com, and I love it. It's awesome. They're very good at paying, and you can reconcile your payment with your report, which you cannot do with a traditional publisher. I have been told by many of my published friends they just can't work out their royalty statements. Okay, so that's the Kindle, but what if you want to get on the iPad, you want to get on the iPhone, you want to get on Diesel or Kobo or Nook? Well, you can do all of that through smashwords.com, which is a free site. They just take a percentage on sale. You upload a Word document and it will format into multiple other documents. If you're in America, you can publish direct to Nook with Pubbit.com, but non-Americans can't do that, so we use Smashwords. There can be some issues with the formatting. You do have to play around with that quite a lot, but Smashwords does have people who will help you format for the a Word document basically. So you can see there bottom left on the iPad there's my book on the app on the store. Oh no, it's the Kindle app on the iPad. Okay, all right. But you can see there it's on the iPhone. So Smashwords will get you everywhere else. So from my perspective, all you need is KDP and Smashwords. Any questions on that? Because that's pretty exciting. When self-publishing with CreateSpace and KDP, do they provide the ISBN numbers as part of the cost? All right, with Amazon, you don't even need an ISBN if you use Amazon only. They have ASIN number. But you do need an ISBN for iBookstore and for Nook, I think. Smashwords has free ISBNs, so you can get them from Smashwords, or you can buy them. Just Google your country and ISBN, and you can buy them. They're not that expensive. But again, if you use Smashwords, they're free. I think it's Marika. That is pretty exciting. Brilliant, it is. What's the profit margin on an ebook selling for $4.99 from Saskia? Okay, so Amazon have a 70% royalty on a $4.99 book. Wow, that's amazing. You know, traditional publishing only gives you like 10-15%. So your profit is what, £4.25? Somebody stopped me, but it may be less than that. £4? Anyway, 70% of $4.99 basically is what you will get. Fantastic. If you're priced under $2.99, it goes to 30%. Do I recommend KDP and Smashwords from Catherine? Yes, if you want to do, if you want to be on iPad, Nook, Kobo, etc., you need to go through Smashwords. The KDP will only put you on the Amazon Kindle. But if you want to use KDP Select, which is a whole nother discussion on marketing, you have to be exclusive to Amazon. And there's a lot of discussion about this in the indie world. It only came up before Christmas. Some people are doing incredibly well, others hate it. You know, they want to be on all platforms. So if you want to be on all platforms, yes, do both. If you want to use KDP Select, you can only do KDP. Okay. Coming into the home straight. So lots of people asked about formatting. The brilliant thing, and I mentioned Scrivener earlier, Scrivener is life-changing because you can also publish a Kindle version from Scrivener. And I did this for, just recently for my book, and I was just bowled over. It's like $49 to buy the software, and then you can use it forever. So it will save you a lot of money if you can spend a little bit of time understanding how that works. And in my, because this is free, I get to plug. I have a little mini course where I take you behind the scenes of Amazon and Smashwords, and I teach you how to use Scrivener and KDP Select and tell you all about all the gory details of ebooks. That's the course there at thecreativepen.com/ebook. And then I have, Craig says Scrivener is a brilliant brainstorming tool as well. It is. Scrivener does so much. I can't recommend it highly enough, and I don't get a commission. So I really mean it. Okay, if you don't want to DIY, there's my friend Simon there, who is who's an author who also formats, so he's someone I recommend. Or you can use ebook architects if you have a complicated multimedia file. For example, someone wanted to embed video and do this, that and the other, but you have to book them like 11 weeks in advance. So if you want to do that, you have to book them. Someone like Simon you'd be able to get quicker, but it really depends how complicated you want your book to be. But for me personally, just with some images and basic stuff, and I'm not a programmer, I will be using Scrivener. Okay. Book launch and marketing, as I said, lots of people asked about that, and unfortunately we're not going to talk so much about it, but this diagram, the Author 2.0 model, is going to be in my brand new blueprint, which will be out hopefully this weekend, when I go into lots of detail on this type of stuff. So essentially you can see there are a few things. Book reviews are definitely number one. Amazon marketing is so important, or marketing on the page where people actually buy books is critical. So if you do nothing else, work on planning for book reviews. And how I do that is essentially I find people in my tribe, and I offer to give them a free copy, and if they like it, then please can they write a review. So I've put there a few links that you can go to in order to find out more about marketing. I did a couple of other free webinars on blogging and social media, and also all my marketing links are /marketing, and then the blueprint as well. So that is where you can find out that information. And again, you'll get all of this in the download. I think we're pretty much done. Yeah, so we're going to you'll get to ask your final, we've got 10 minutes, so if you want to start putting in your questions, I will answer them just while I do a little plug. If you are in London or near London, I'm doing a full day workshop on what I've covered there is a tiny part of a full day workshop. If you'd like to come to the full day, it's on February 22nd in London, so I know that's not for everyone, but there's the details at Women Unlimited, and men are welcome. I also have consulting if anybody needs consulting, and if you do book a session in the next 24 hours, I will give you a special price there. So you can email me, joanna@thecreativepen.com. Okay, so that's my little plugs for now. So questions, more questions. What have you got for me? Okay, Dave. With traditional publishing, it's finished once. First edition is printed. I don't like that ebooks can be fiddled with indefinitely. Pardon me, would rather publish and be damned. Glad men are welcome. Yes, well, that's entirely up to you. If you self-publish an ebook, you don't have to fiddle with it. You just go live and it's done. The only, so for example, my first novel, Pentecost, it's done. I mean, I could rewrite it, but I'm not. What I have adjusted is I've added in the back, if you like this book, you might like Prophecy, which is now available. So adding things in later, or for example, maybe you've just launched another product in your business and you want to add that into your book. It's much easier to do that in an ebook. So that would be one reason you might want to go in and change the file, but you don't have to. You don't have to fiddle with it. Remember, you own the rights if you're indie. Catherine, have you ever done a webinar on copy editing and proofreading? Okay, I actually did I covered it in a full course I did last year on novel writing. So I haven't actually done a webinar on that. If you go to thecreativepen.com/editor or editors, I can't remember what it was. There are a whole load of websites there you can go visit, and a lot of those people have more information on copy editing and proofreading. Thank you, Marika. Yes, my urgency on reduced rates for consultancy. Catherine, I'm so inspired by indie. There are so many people with important things to share. It seems an amazing opportunity. Yep, it is. I mean, you can tell how excited I am. This has changed my life. I would not have been able to give up my job without Amazon enabling me to make money by selling my stuff. So yeah, this is really, really exciting. Okay. Oh, Catherine's a proofreader on the phone. Are you best to save your best idea for later, from Kirsty, and just get writing your first book now as a practice? I've got an idea as a series, not sure where to start. That is a really good question. I personally believe that if you give of your best right now, you will get the next idea will come later. That you do not know what your best ideas are right now. So don't save anything. Give everything you have to your book. If you have a series, okay, that I guess I mean it in two ways. Give everything you can to your book unless it belongs to another topic. So for example, communicating with your spouse versus communicating with your boss would be two separate mini books perhaps. But give all you can to your book that you're doing right now. And Kirsty, you were the late one. You need to listen to the beginning where I go through how you plan everything first. How much of your book should you give away for free as a sample? Yep, well, on Amazon it's basically done for you. You just tick the box that says allow a sample. Definitely do that. Now, I personally say give away as much as you can as a sample, because if someone reads 50% of your book, they are sure as hell going to buy the other 50%. Most people will put it down on the first page, so that's not going to stop people buying it. So, but as I said, Amazon do it automatically. Smashwords, you have to say a percentage. I would say 20%, for example. The Amazon's look inside option for print books, you actually have to send them a print book, and then they will do that. So that's extra pain in the ass. Annie says, brilliant webinar, thank you, best birthday present I received. Oh, happy birthday. Craig says, if anyone's interested, there's an iPhone app from Nuance that takes dictation based on drag and dictate. Absolutely, that's brilliant. Free app. Any quick words for any inspiration for us feeling a little intrepidation? I'm 52, wanted to write a book for the last 20 years. Good, that's a good one, Dave. Seriously, writing, I mean, I procrastinated for probably 15 years. I wanted to write a book from like age 18 and I just put it off, said, oh, I can't do it. But writing that first book, as I just said, you know, changed my life. It really did. In the last 4 years, how my life has changed is just unbelievable. You know, I now run this business. 4 years ago, I knew nothing about this stuff. You know, I've written 2 novels. I've got an online, you know, coaching thing. Life is, I just wouldn't have got here without writing that first book. So what I want you to think is, certainly at 52, you've got like a third of your life left. And I've been talking to my mum about this recently. She's in her mid-60s. I'm like, Mum, this is the next third of your life. What do you want to do and what excites you? This is the time to be excited. So Dave, seriously, you know, get your stuff into gear and commit to writing the book and follow the process that I've described. And just set some dates and yeah, get on with it. So that, I guess that's kind of the reality of it. Okay, any more questions before we go? Because I guess, you know, I'm excited for all of you, and what I love about this business is that I guess I'm trying to inspire people to write their books, because with indie, there's no barrier. Okay, the barrier is you. The barrier is not a publisher. You don't have to spend all that negative energy chasing and being rejected. You are empowered to create your book and put it out there. It's just, wow, it's just brilliant. So good. Kirsty, let me at it. I'm ready to write. Okay, Esther, will there be a link with the recording? Here's the link. At thecreativepen.com/youinspireme, there will be a recording, video, audio, and the slides within 24 hours. I'll also email. How do you overcome negative thoughts that your ideas are not unique enough? Look, unique ideas are difficult because, you know, everything's been done. If you write a book on communicating in the workplace, I mean, seriously, that's unoriginal. What is original is your story. I wrote a book about changing my career. You know, I was miserable in my job. That's not original. What was original is my words and my take on it. So don't worry about that. You know, the negativity, the self-talk, you need to be positive. The other thing I did years ago is affirmations. I had an affirmation that was, I am creative, I am an author. And again, if you just got here, please get the new blueprint, so you can sign up now, get the old one, and get the new one as soon as it comes out. In there, I go through my story of from affirmation to reality, where, you know, I spent a year saying, I am creative, I am an author, I am creative, I am an author. I couldn't even say that out loud at first. After I was able to say it out loud, eventually I felt creative and I started a business, you know. So, yeah, it's essentially good. All right. I think we're pretty much done. There's some more questions. Please email me, joanna@thecreativepen.com, if you have any questions or comments or follow-up things. I will, you know, be able to, you know, let you know any information. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I really enjoyed talking to you. From the feedback here, I think you all enjoyed it as well. So again, I hope you'll, you know, either come and join me if you are in London, or let me know, or come and join me on the blog. So thank you so much, everybody. We will finish now.